Banks is a pop singer who has dropped a few albums so far, and not really been impressed by her work really. I'm quite mild on those albums, but each album has a couple of great tracks on them, I will say. Gemini Feed being the obvious highlight in her discography so far. What a bold, great danceable track that is, and I just kind of wish more of her songs went for that sound, because I think one thing about Banks is that she kind of lacks a bit of identity, whereas that is the one track that really makes me feel like, yes, this is who she is. I've always thought she'd break out quite big though. She's had a bit of a push behind her that makes me feel like she could get a lot bigger than she is, but unfortunately I do think this new album of hers is the worst so far, so I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be the case. This album is just a mishmash of ideas and styles kind of being fused together that just don't really ever seem to work very well. I do appreciate what she's trying to do on a lot of these tracks, but it's just one of those albums where you can say, I can see what they're going for, but the end product just isn't working. Something that's been common in her album so far is that she does these like vocal manipulations and adds these effects to her voice that just completely strip away any personality that she could potentially have. But even with that, I do think she lacks a lot of personality in her voice anyway. She has this like soul inflection throughout this album that really just feels completely lifeless. It's really hard to connect to her at all. Like, I just find it incredibly difficult to feel interested in what she's saying, get invested in her as a person, because there just doesn't seem to be much of a person there. It's just a very watered down soul attempt, I think, as opposed to her voice just having natural soul to it. There are some of these electronic infusions throughout though that again just kind of feel a bit messy, honestly, but I at least like how like this soul and electronic sound is sort of coming together a little bit. Like I say, it's not really working, but I do like the attempt of that style and sound being joined together. The second track took me off guard at first. I did think the producer on there was Flume, because it's so wonky and all over the place, but I did check and it is actually Hudson Mohawk on production, which does make sense because his sound is very wonky too. But yeah, this is a real mess of a song. It is just a complete clunky hodgepodge. I just don't feel like it works at all. It is sort of like she recorded her vocals separately and then just placed them over this instrumental, and without any thought being put into it, because they just sound like two worlds colliding and it is not working at all. Nothing quite hits this level of bizarreness on the album though. A lot of the time she's just doing very breathy and sensual R&B vocals that I'm just not really on board with. Like I said, that vocal effect that gets thrown onto her voice at points as well completely strips anything away. She's completely void of anything and it's incredibly dull. Not really invested in the lyrics all that much either. The track Stroke is about how, you know, this guy wants her to stroke his ego and just make him feel good all the time, but there's nothing really being like, you know, the feeling isn't mutual. She's not really getting anything from it. One line pops out though where she says, "And even though you wanted to call me sweet, you could call me savory." This is just bad. I will say that Propaganda might be the closest thing to an actual solid pop tune on here though. It feels the most natural and organic on the album. Her vocals are kind of shining on this track. There's a groove to the instrumental, just similarly to like some of her best tracks on her previous albums as well. You know, I can at least appreciate this one. This is a solid one. Not that it comes very often on the album though. We do have a feature here from Francis and the Lights, and man, their chemistry, where is it? Again, similarly to that second track I mentioned with the Hudson Mohawk feature, it really just sounds like two things clattering together. Their voices don't match each other at all, I just don't think this track works. So yeah, pretty poor album overall when it's not sounding like it's all over the place and messy. It's just very dull, like her vocals just don't grip me throughout. I think you could argue that this is quite a passable album and there's nothing necessarily awful here, but it is just really quite a poor listen for me. Just still struggling to find anything from Banks as a performer. There's something there, um, there's definitely potential, but I just feel like her vocals are lacking a lot and they just don't impress me very much. I'm gonna go 4 out of 10. Let me know what you think of this album, if you like it more than me, if you feel the same. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Goodbye.